that I spoke and meant in regards to the Haka video that I posted.
Justifying your ignorance with quotes from the Bible doesn't make it any better. You said you knew nothing about the Haka, and yet you feel like you have the right to speak about it. Just because it does not come out of the Bible does not make it demonic. Sagoli. I am Afro-Indigenous, and I am indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. I'm indigenous to what you would call the United States. And I'm just going to give you a brief history, at least, of what extreme Christians like yourself, believing that if it doesn't come from the Bible, then it must be demonic, does to indigenous people. See, when colonization happened and they decided that, well, the natives didn't believe in Jesus and they needed to be eradicated at a certain point, and the federal government also agreed with those extreme Christians. Now, mind you, again, church and state was still separate. Well, they needed to be taught somewhere. So where did they put those native children? Well, they put them in either Catholic or Lutheran schools, and it was forced upon the native people, where they would actually take those children out of native homes and put them into what were called residential or boarding schools. They would chop their hair off. They would force them to speak English and beat them if they spoke their native tongue. And they would also beat them relentlessly. A lot of children were unalived. A lot of children were missing and were never found. Up until recently, we found remains. This happened throughout the United States as well as Canada. Now, what also came along with that is that they banned our ceremonies. They banned them because, one, the United States government needed to dissemble us, make us weaker. And, well, extreme Christians wanted to go ahead and demonize us. So this worked hand in hand. See, they had a saying back then. If you can take the Indian out of the child, you can unalive the Indian. And so they did that for 150 years. And they banned our ceremonies. They banned our traditions. It was a federal crime up until 1978. I'll say that again, 1978. And because people like you decided that they didn't understand indigenous ceremonies because it wasn't in their Bible, it was really easy for them to do. But we still figured out ways to do our ceremonies. We still figured out ways to keep a tradition going, and we somehow clinged onto our languages. Although some tribes lost ceremonies, some tribes did lose their language, we still figured out a way. Now, the importance of that Haka being done in the middle of Parliament, I don't think you understand. See, the reason why it scares you is because you're so colonized up here. You're not making any connection with your ancestors. See, like you said, your African American community. See, I'm half African American, and I know our African American community, we really didn't do the Christian church. Traditionally speaking, in Africa, in different countries throughout Africa, we had very different cultural experiences there. And one thing I can tell you is you start to decolonize yourself, you might actually start to feel something there. And that might scare you a little bit. And that's okay, honey. You're just getting a little bit of a connection with some ancestors. I've been seeing on my FYP page that many African American people are feeling some strong connection there because that was standing up to oppression that they did. When that young woman, who is the youngest member of Parliament, mind you, stood up and ripped that bill up and proceeded to do the Haka, it was important. It is inspiring indigenous people around this globe to stand up even more than what we may have been standing up before and saying, yeah, we can do that. And as we're seeing more footage come through and seeing that they are having record numbers of Maori people showing up and showing out and doing these hakas and calling to action, we are getting more and more inspired to do more. And we are feeling that haka right here. That is not witchcraft. That is an ancestral call. That is the power of the ancestors. Because you need to remember something, sweetheart. That Bible's only 2,000 years old. That haka is older. It is ancient. My ceremonies are older. They are ancient. They call on ancestors and beings and things that are older and ancient than the words that you read. And they have been translated way, way less than your Bible. They are more of a direct connection. It is not witchcraft. It is not demonic just because you don't understand it. So before you go ahead and get us all marked up because you don't understand some indigenous practice in New Zealand, because you don't understand the Maori people, because you don't understand the haka, before you go ahead and get inspiration canceled because it doesn't fall in line with your beliefs, how about you shut the fuck up and sit the hell down? Because the rest of us are getting inspired. The rest of us are feeling a call into action. The rest of us are getting suited up. And if you can't hang, girlie, sit back. Because I really don't think you're ready to sit down with someone from the Maori. I don't think you're ready to sit down with anybody who's Maori and really learn that lesson by the way that you talked. You're just... And as far as my Maori brother and sisters, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep going. Keep going. We are watching you. We are watching you. It is amazing. It is beautiful. Don't think we haven't forgot when you guys came here and helped us with the North Dakota pipeline. Don't think that we haven't forgotten every single time you've shown up to help us with our indigenous issues. I'm sure we're going to figure out how to come back and help y'all out with your issues with your treaty, because we know how important it is to make sure that those treaties are honored and never broken. We stand with you. We hear you. We see you. We love you. And thank you. Thank you for giving such a beautiful haka for us all to hear and see and hear that call into action. Yanko.